So give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 or 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that you're well organized, and when you're getting on the show, you take as little time as possible so we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we'll not accept anything we deem that's not within our broadcast standards, but we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. Again, thank you all again for joining us. Your voice in the community talk that get results. You can also follow our live video stream of this program on our Facebook page at Vaughan Radio, on our YouTube channel at Vaughan Radio. Click subscribe. Tonight, maybe I should put it this way. The return of Elton Marcus Hull. Good evening.
Good evening, Webbo. Thanks for having me tonight. We're going to, I have something to throw on the table as we go around. I think most people in Nevis know who I am. My name is Elton Marcus Hull, and I will not spend too much time introducing myself, because most of the people here do know who I am. So, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Naya. Good seeing you.
Conrad Naya Libert, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to your hard-working staff here at the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean. To you, Elton, welcome back.
Thanks, my brother.
It's good to see you. Yeah. And I'm sure you'll have a lot to say tonight. We've been, I suppose, accumulating over the many months in it that you were away, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm so happy to see you. To all my friends who usually tune into the program in the international circle. Yes, I still say that, Marcus. In the international circle, my friends in Detroit, my friends in Toronto, I would like to say pleasant good evening to you. And let me say to my fellow Nevisians, welcome once again to this program, and I'm inviting you to participate, to call in and put your issues on the table. I always gather that there's a lot of things out there on the minds of people to be discussed, and sometimes people are a bit timid to call in because we're living in a little place and everybody thinks everybody knows their voice, but that's not really the case. Tune in to this program and contribute to the debate, the conversation, and of course I guess we all hoping to make Nevis in the region, the Federation, a better place to be. My friend Marcus just told me is one thing Caribbean people does not know is that they're living in the best place or the best region of the world, and of course I support that wholeheartedly, and I think that is something we should be conscious of, and we should try to protect and preserve that concept and reality, not just a concept, that yes, we are living in the most beautiful and the best place in the world. Webbo, thank you so much once again for inviting me, and I hope we have a good discussion this evening. Get some matters.
So, those of you who don't know, Elton Marcus Hull was here for many years on this program. We had many of interesting discussions, right? So, Elton, it's good to have you back, and you got something straight off you want to put on the table, and then after that we get into other stuff.
Yeah, well, I want to talk some stuff about tennis. I think most people see myself and my girls practicing tennis by the high school almost every day, and we've been doing that for about 16 or 17 years, so we'll discuss that. First, I want to say to Webbo and to Naya, the last federal election was in 2022.
2022. Could have been the year before.
2022, yeah. No, 2022.
2022, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And I was in Canada. Now, I did tune into some other radio station on election night. But I came back to Vaughan on election night in Canada, listening to the election. So let me just say, Webbo, you are still ahead of everybody else on election night. You know what I'm saying? So, and I want to say, well, of course, Stanley, who's always here, and Carl with the stats. So I must say, okay, yes, it made my night in Canada a lot more pleasant listening to Vaughan Radio for election night. Right?
Yeah. That's always something else.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let me just put that on the table. I also did have listened to Vaughan in Mexico on YouTube. So it's a great venue to expand your voice, especially when you're outside of the Caribbean. So I just want to put that on the table. Anyway, my name is Elton Marcus Hall. I lived in Canada for a number of years. I'm still a resident of Canada. Right now, I am a certified tennis coach from Canada with papers. And as everybody know, that I used to teach tennis here, and every Friday I used to teach the special ed. And everyone here who has been doing Olympic tennis in the last 10 years, I taught all of them tennis, including Sinkits. My girls, Alyssa and Vanessa, we were stuck here for about 3 years due to COVID. We spent like 6 months in Florida in 2018 training, and then in 2019, 5.5 months we trained there. We were just about ready to go back to Florida to start doing ITF. At that time, Vanessa was 17 years old, so she could still do some junior tennis and some women's tennis. We were playing USTA. Then the COVID came, so we were stuck here as we all were during COVID. Now, a sad thing happened for me in 2022 because my mom passed away, and so I had to go up to Canada and do my sonly duty. My mom passed away at the ripe and beautiful age of 90 years and 10 months. So I was very happy to have my mom for all those time. Unfortunately, like being in Canada was very cold, and so our plans for tennis really got on the back burner. So after 9 or 10 months in Canada, we said we have to leave. So it was a choice: was either we come back to Nevis or we went to go to Mexico. So we went to Mexico because, of course, the weather is good and there's more tennis players. So we were there. In 2021, the St. Nevis Tennis Association and the Olympic Committee had asked us for some information because they was trying to send tennis players to the Pan Am game. I can't remember where the Pan Am game was, but anyway, we gave them the information that they requested, and at that time they didn't send us to the Pan Am game. They sent this Russian girl. Now, I'm going to refer to this girl as the Russian girl because she's not Italian, she's not French, and she's not German. Let me say to everybody right off, I speak 7 languages quite well, which I had to use in the last 12 months. I have visited about 12 countries in the last 12 months where I had to use some of these languages. I'm saying that because, I was on another show and I mentioned this Russian girl, and I'll explain why. And some people got offended. The bottom line is, in 2021, when the St. Nevis Olympic Committee and the St. Nevis Tennis Association asked us to give them the information, we did give them all the information. Then they end up sending this Russian girl to the Pan Am Games. Their reasoning to me was the Russian girl had passport by investment. And of course, that was the first time I'm learning about passport by investment. because I didn't realize that passport by investment means that their children, who has obviously more of an advantage than ours, would take our place in these events. Now, when you're talking about the Pan Am Game or the Commonwealth Games or the Olympics, every country want their people to go, because you want your athlete to excel, and the only way they can excel is to go and compete against all these other people that are doing in their field, whether it's tennis or track and field or whatever. So you're sending them for the experience. Then they get to talk to world coaches in the sport that they're trying to excel in. So this is the thing that you're trying to do, is give your people experience. Now, you're telling me that you didn't choose my daughters because this young lady has passport by investment and has the same rights as my children or your children. Hey, if that's the case, that's the case. So you send the young lady. We said nothing. We moved on. While in Mexico training in 2023, we got a call from the Cinques Neves Tennis Association and the Olympic Committee, and says to us that the girls need to get their Cinques Neves passport because we have a team here who had asked them for some help. So we did that. It cost us $600 to do that. Then after that, we heard nothing from the Cinques Neves Tennis Association or the Olympic Committee. Okay, we went on to do what we were doing, right? We're practicing. The girls went back on the tour, playing women's tennis. Now, about 3 months ago, back in August, we got another call asking for some more information. Now, this time we're in Tunisia, where the girls are doing women's tennis. So we send the information again. We heard nothing else from them, and they indicated that this was, again, in connection with the Pan Am Games. We know that the Pan Am Games were in Santiago, Chile. So, Alyssa sent up a following letter saying, look, if this is about the Pan Am Games, please send us some information so we know what we are doing. And we heard nothing. So, as anybody who follows tennis realize that right now the tennis world kind of closed down coming into October towards Christmas until the end of December, when the Australian Open will begin in shortly after that. So we said, okay, we need to go. Either we go back to Mexico or we go to Cinques Neves. So we came back, and we're here doing our training now. Then we're going to go back on tour. Then we hear somebody send us this thing saying that they send the Russian girl again. Now this time we're saying, wow, okay, because we've heard nothing from them. But this time someone went into an NIA chat room, whatever they discuss in there. The fact is, a lot of times when you go into these chat rooms discussing these kind of things, you're discussing it, but it's going to get out, and perhaps you're hoping that it's going to get out, because when someone inquired why Alyssa and Vanessa didn't go to the Pan Am Games, they said because the Russian girl was playing at a higher level than Alyssa and Vanessa, and we asked for $500,000 from the NIA. That's not true. The girl is not playing at a higher level. That's not true. And they also said that Alyssa and Vanessa wasn't playing at a high enough level to represent Cinques Neves. Now, the first question that we have to ask is, how high is at a level you have to be playing to play tennis for Cinques Neves? Right? Who determined that? I realize that I don't think there's anybody in Cinques Neves that has a higher level either in playing or in coaching than I do. And if they have one, they should come forward. And if they did, they should have come forward years ago. I spent 12 years training the special ed kids and all the Special Olympic athletes. 12 years I spent doing that. Okay? What I'm saying is that you can send the Russian girl, you can send anybody you want, but I don't care who they are. Not one child from St. Kitts and Nevis is going to benefit if some Russian girl that you send to the Olympics somewhere wins a Grand Slam. And any Russian girl or any other girl that you send win a Grand Slam, they won't even bother with St. Kitts and Nevis. There is nothing to sponsor St. Kitts and Nevis for anybody to say, yeah, I'm going to play for St. Kitts and Nevis, unless you're from St. Kitts and Nevis, right? And so my thing is this: look, you want to make yourself look good, make yourself look good. If you think you were righteous in sending the Russian girl over Alyssa and Vanessa, then say so. But don't use us as scapegoat to say that the young lady was playing at a higher level than Alyssa and Vanessa. The young lady is playing junior tennis. Alyssa and Vanessa is playing women's ITF tennis. Now, I know a lot of people don't understand that, because I would say to you, you have high school tennis, then you would have USTA and junior tennis, and then you have college tennis, and then you have ITF tennis, women's ITF tennis, or men's ITF tennis. That's what, and then you have WTA. Alyssa and Vanessa is playing women's ITF tennis. So all I'm saying to you is that do not go and tell lies about me or Alyssa and Vanessa to make yourself look good because you've done something wrong. I'm saying, if you think you're righteous in what you're doing, then by all means, tell the people the truth. But the bigger picture here is, because you can afford a passport by investment, and your child has a better advantage because you're coming from outside and you have money, should they come and replace your children in St. Kitts and Nevis? That's the bigger question, right? Apart from them lying to say that the girl is playing at a higher level, which she's not. She's playing junior tennis, okay? And she has no ranking in women's tennis. Now you're going to ask, is Alyssa and Vanessa have ranking in women's tennis? The answer is no, right? But again, Alyssa and Vanessa is playing women's tennis and has more wins in women's tennis than she does. Because she plays junior tennis. Now, if anybody understands tennis, and like I said to everyone, I have been to about 12 countries in the last 12 months. If you are a top level junior tennis player, you don't have to leave Russia. And if you can't make it to the Russian team, one of the Russian republics are going to take you. Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Latvia, Ukraine, Czechoslovakia, Slovakia, Slovenia, any one of those places will take you. Even like Serbia, Croatia, all those, they will take you. Now, if you're 113 juniors, I don't think any one of these countries will take you, right? So now you come rushing down to St. Kitts and Nevis because you have passport by investment. The bigger question that we need to ask yourself is, the people who can afford passport by investment, are they going to come and replace our children by not even living here? If you tell me you're living here, you grow up here, hey, I got no problem, because people are going to say, well, Elton, Alyssa and Vanessa was born in Canada. And yes, they were. And they're Canadian. But Vanessa came here when she was 1, and Vanessa came here when she was 3. You know, I'm saying to you, all I'm saying to the NIA, and let me get this straight. We have never once asked the NIA for 1 penny. We have not. We were supposed to get some help after we get the St. Kitts Nevis password from the St. Kitts Nevis Olympic Committee and the association. We got nothing, right? They ask us to do a budget. We send the budget, right? If you look into the budget, we didn't include any food or transportation or place to sleep. We send them a budget. All the budget basically is training and equipment. We never ask anyone, not the NIA, not the St. Kitts Nevis government, not the St. Kitts Nevis Tennis Association, not the St. Kitts Tourism Department for $500,000. Always say, you want to help? Help. Send us $10, send us $10. You see what Trump is doing? Trump is asking all his followers, send him $5, send him $10. If the St. Kitts Nevis Olympic Committee, who gets money, mind you, from the IOC to develop athletes for the Olympics and other events, right? Send your people to these events. They go themselves. I'm sure they go first class. Send your people. Let them experience. Let your people experience and see what they need to know to excel in the sport. We never ask anyone for $500,000. My team didn't ask anyone for that. And the young lady was not playing at a higher level than Alyssa and Vanessa. I just want to make that straight. A lot of people from Nevis listened to the show last week, and they came and approached me, and they said, you know, Mr. Hull, well, why didn't they send all of them? My thinking was, if they thought the young lady was better than Vanessa and Alyssa in 2021, they approached us, why wouldn't they bring her and said, hey, you know, you guys have some games and let's see how it goes? They didn't do that. They just sent her. All I'm saying, you can send 1,000 people from Russia, Italy, Germany, Czechoslovakia. It doesn't matter. It will not make any difference to one child from St. Kitts and Nevis, right? But I can tell you right now, Alyssa and Vanessa is successful, and every child from St. Kitts and Nevis will relate to them. And let me just say out right now, there is nothing that anyone from St. Kitts and Nevis is going to do, because Alyssa and Vanessa is already playing professional tennis. There's nothing and no one here can stop them from getting to the heights that they want to get, and they will get there. They will get there because they're willing to work and they're disciplined enough to do it, right? I'm saying to all the people concerned, St. Kitts Nevis Tennis Association, the Olympic Committee, right? You know, you get money from the IOC, develop athletes in St. Kitts Nevis. You understand? Help them, right? And the NIA, we didn't ask anybody for no money. So stop telling lies on us. That's it, Webbo. You understand what I'm saying to you? Don't tell lie on us to make yourself look good and to make us look bad. We didn't ask anybody for no money. The young lady was not playing at no higher level than Alyssa and Vanessa.
Elton, I think you made a point, right? That and you said you wanted to make it clear in reference to, should I describe it as a nationality of the person who you claim or who you said is from Russia?
Yes.
And you are accepting that they have citizenship of St. Kitts and Nevis?
By investment, yes.
By investment.
Yes.
And you also have pointed out that your girls were not born in St. Kitts and Nevis either.
No.
But they have citizenship as well.
Yes. Not by investment.
Not by investment.
Okay.
Do we reach a point then where this is concerned that what if someone argues that whether it's by investment, by inheritance, by your mother, father being, etc., from St. Kitts or born in St. Kitts and Nevis, what if someone argues the bottom line is that they're legally citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, regardless to how or what manner? Does it make a difference?
No, it doesn't make a difference. The thing is, we're not arguing legality here. We're not arguing that. In 2021, when I found out, because I didn't know, and for me, ignorance is not bliss. I pride myself on knowing what's going on, or try and find out what's going on. I found out then that we had such a thing. Well, I knew they were citizen by investment, but I didn't realize that when you're a citizen by investment, you also had claim and the same rights as the same citizen who were born and raised here. Parents are from here, grandparents are from here, and so on and so forth. I realized that then that's a reality. Now, remember what I said to you, Webbo? I moved on when I found that out. Now, if they wanted to actually do something, they would have brought the young lady here and said, you guys play some games, let's see who's better, let's see what level you are at. You understand what I'm saying to you? As far as I know, in 2021, the young lady has never been to St. Kitts Nevis or do not live in St. Kitts Nevis. Their parents might have visited because of the citizen by investment, but she didn't live here. And someone asked me that question already. What's the difference? The difference is my girls were raised in St. Kitts and Nevis. They know the culture of St. Kitts and Nevis. They went to school in St. Kitts and Nevis, right? How are you going to compare them to someone who don't live here? You can't compare them because they know nothing about St. Kitts and Nevis. The bottom line is, if you ask Alyssa and Vanessa where Saskatchewan is in Canada, they don't know. They know where Sandy Point is. They know where Halfway Tree is. They know where Butlers is. And they know where Gingerland is. You understand? Now you ask the same for the same thing. And what the answer will be if they've never lived here. They've maybe never even been here. That's the difference that people need to understand. But still, the bigger picture, and someone mentioned about coming from Guyana or Jamaica. Let's not forget we have something called CARICOM, right? But this is what you need to understand. Someone from Jamaica is going to come to St. Kitts and Nevis or Guyana and live here for a period of time. And even coming from a Commonwealth country, you have to live here for 1 year before you can do what, Webbo?
Vote.
Vote. You understand? So I'm saying, you see the difference. You come in and you replace children from St. Kitts and Nevis, but you've never lived here. You know nothing about the culture. You know nothing about St. Kitts Nevis.
But the thing, though, is that if that's not a requirement,
no, but Webbo, don't you think, or don't the people out there in St. Kitts Nevis, that should be a requirement? There should be some exempt in legislation to say, no, you need to live here for a while, understand our culture, if you are going to now replace our children and their birthright. That should be it. That's not saying that you can't do citizen by investment. We're not saying that. Look, most of these people are not doing citizen by investment because they want to come and live in Nevis and St. Kitts for the rest of their life. That's not the point. The point is, I'm saying you have to have some exemption. As a Commonwealth person from the Commonwealth, you have to live in St. Kitts and Nevis for 1 year before you can vote. That's an exemption, isn't it? You can't just walk in and vote.
Right, but you know, not everybody will agree with even that exemption.
I agree.
Because some people are going to argue. But I always think is very important to have foresight when you're going to get into anything. And when we play, we're talking about tennis now, and so under the heading of sports and games, one of the fundamental things that is of extreme importance is to lay down the rules before you start the game.
Yes.
Because if you try to insert rulings and make up as you go along, contingent on what is happening as the game progresses, you're going to have complete chaos.
Agreed.
So that as you're speaking about some of the laws or rules or exemptions that should be put in where the citizenship by investment program is concerned, and that is what I'm talking about then. So maybe when we're doing things like those, maybe we ought to have been able to see whether or not things like this would come up down the road, and whether or not we will have a difficulty with it.
You know, Webbo, I found out this in 2021. My question really is to everybody in St. Kitts and Nevis, how many of you knew that this was part of the citizen by investment? How many of Nevisians and Kittitians knew about that? I mean,
meaning what? That they have all rights and privileges just like everybody else?
Exactly.
So we in other words, we were hearing the word or term citizen, but we thought that it meant something different, although it's spelled the same and everything.
Absolutely, Webbo. So I'm saying the government need to explain to everyone in St. Kitts and Nevis what is the meaning of citizen by investment, what it entails, so that we're not surprised, Webbo.
Citizenship by investment, citizenship by birth, citizenship by parentage, or citizenship by whatever else, family, etc., etc. So doesn't all of them carry the same value? You get it by a particular route.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, that is what it is, and the value is the same, correct?
The value is the same, yeah, agreed. But again, as you say that, we are a member of CARICOM. We are a member of the Commonwealth. But at the end of the day, you have to live in St. Kitts Nevis, right? 1 year before you can vote. How long do you have to live in St. Kitts Nevis as a Caribbean, as a CARICOM member before you become a citizen of the said island that you are living in? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, right. So you're saying just as you have those requirements,
Yes.
but what if one argues that with the citizenship by investment,
Yes.
it gives you the rights and privileges that are afforded a citizen? So you're arguing that they should put other conditions in it?
Well, I'm arguing that they should put other condition in it, and if they don't, they should tell the people. No, Webbo, I want you to imagine, I want everybody out there listening to us here on the Heavyweights tonight. If all these people who have citizen by investment comes into St. Kitts and Nevis, are they also allowed to vote in any election?
Yeah, every election.
They can vote in every election. Okay. But I'm saying, the people in St. Kitts and Nevis need to know these things, right? These things come into place, but we are left in the dark, right, until one of us, or several of us, go and research it, right? I don't want to get away from the tennis, Webbo, because my thing is, I'm saying, I hate people who lie, Webbo, because you can't trust them. I'm saying, do not lie to make yourself look good and make other people look bad. We in St. Kitts and Nevis, who here has the knowledge to determine who is playing at a high level of tennis, and who here has the knowledge to say this person is not playing at a high enough level to represent St. Kitts and Nevis? Who here has that
So
right?
the decision for the persons to represent St. Kitts and Nevis
Yes.
was or is made by who?
I don't know. Because you're saying that Alyssa and Vanessa wasn't playing at a high enough level.
Yeah, but who's saying that?
The St. Kitts Nevis Tennis Association, the Olympic Committee, whoever sent the
Okay.
Russian girl to the Pan Am game.
Okay, so
that's what-
it can well be then that the answer to the who can well be the St. Kitts Nevis Tennis Association or the Olympic Association of St. Kitts and Nevis.
or whoever went in the chat room in the NIA. As far as I know, the NIA was in a meeting in St. Kitts with my team. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, remember, I want to remind everybody, no one can go to the Pan Am game from St. Kitts and Nevis unless they're sent by St. Kitts and Nevis. Whether you're Russian, Italian, French, German, Spanish, you can't go unless you're sent by the country you're representing.
Right.
You understand
So
what I'm
that will be the relevant association, be it the
Exactly.
Olympic Association, right?
So you can't
So,
go on that. Like,
right.
we can't just decide that we are going to go to the Pan Am Games unless the country that we are playing for, because Alyssa and Vanessa is playing under the St. Kitts Nevis flag.
Right.
Okay? We can't just go to say we are going to represent Nevis unless we are sent by our country. Right? And so the Russian girl cannot go again unless she's sent by our country. And so let's get that straight. You know, she can't just pick up and go, right? But at the end of the day, Webbo, as a few people said to me, Mr. Hollow, why didn't they send all three of them? It would have been better than just sending one, and I agree. But if you said that you wanted to see who was better, bring her here and let her play against the girls. You understand what I'm saying to you, right? Or do your homework. The problem that we have with the St. Kitts Nevis Tennis Association and even the St. Kitts Olympic Committee, they know nothing about tennis. They know nothing about the structure of tennis. They know nothing about how to get any kind of ranking. They know nothing. Because at the end of the day, the person who set up the St. Kitts Nevis tennis ranking is Alyssa and Vanessa. Because they knew nothing about the whole thing. They know nothing about the structure. Right? Alyssa and Vanessa has been playing women's ITF tennis for the last 6 months. You see what I'm saying? In all the places that we have been, Webbo, and all the players that we have played against, Russians, Italians, Germans, English, French, Czechoslovakian, Slovakia, Slovenia, Moldova, Bulgaria, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Latvia. We have not seen not one woman from any Caribbean country playing at the level that they are playing at. Not one. We have seen 3 guys at that level, 2 from Guadeloupe and 1 for Dominican Republic. Not one woman representing any Caribbean country playing at that level. Now here we are at that level playing for St. Kitts Nevis, and I said to someone, if you can find one of the person in the ambassador corps of St. Kitts and Nevis who have done more to promote St. Kitts and Nevis than Alyssa and Vanessa, I would like to see it. You understand? Because Alyssa and Vanessa is out there on their own promoting St. Kitts and Nevis. Right?
Naya, you wanted to weigh in.
Yes, Webbo, we're dealing with a complex situation here. As you say, Webbo, I suppose some foresight might have been lacking as this whole thing unfolds. I think last week we make mention of the last time we were here. We made mention of the consequences of the Citizens by Investment program, and I did say to Mr. Stanley, it's probably a good thing that they are buying but not occupying, because if they decide to occupy, then we would realize that we're going to be dealing with quite a lot of complications here, because there's a lot of passports being sold, much more than half of the population of the Federation, and so that is of concern. Yeah. That is of concern, and I think what you have experienced, Mr. Hull, is a consequence of the Citizen by Investment program as it unfolds, and it seems as if sufficient foresight was not. They didn't have sufficient foresight to realize all these consequences, and of course they might have to, or they may not, because a citizen is a citizen. A citizen is a citizen. But I tend to agree with you to an extent whereby if you seek to represent the Federation, we would simply like to know more of you, more of your abilities, and of course you must be the one who seems to be the better one or the best to do this, and that can only be proven by engaging yourself in the exercise or some kind of exercise here. And you would say, well, this individual seems like, with the necessary meeting the necessary requirements, this individual seems to be the one which is is best to represent the island. Because what I'm hearing from you, Mr. Hull, is that the young lady from Russia never played in here on St. Kitts Nevis soil, and she has been chosen without even competing with other people who probably could have represented St. Kitts Nevis as well. But a citizen is a citizen, and if you start to put exemption in it, then of course you probably would place those who have become a citizen by investment program in a slightly different category, and of course they themselves might make a row about it, really. But we got to be very mindful. You have a few hurdles, it looks like, Mr. Hull. You speak about the Olympic committee. I'm not sure who are the individuals in this committee. I'm not even sure if there's any individual in that committee from Nevis.
I don't. Look. Okay. I know of some of the people on the committee. First of all, let me just say this, Webbo and Naya. I am not against the Citizen by Investment program. All I'm saying is that they need to tell the citizens who are here, native citizens who were born and raised here or born abroad, who are now citizen because their parents are from St. Kitts and Nevis. They need to give us the detail of what entails when you become a citizen by investment. That is the problem. We are left in the dark as to what the details are.
But what if the details are the same details that Naya has to his definition of being a citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis?
You mean being an occupier or just a
bystander? Naya does not have to occupy.
Yes.
Nobody can make Naya occupy.
Agreed.
Naya used to live in England, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Naya can go back to England.
Yes.
And still retain all of the rights and privileges given to a citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis, correct?
Yes, but remember, in order for Naya to become a citizen of Britain, he had to go and live there. Right, Naya?
Yeah.
You have to go and live there. You see, that's the difference. Naya had to go and live there to become a citizen of
but I'm
Britain.
not sure you grasp what Webbo is...
I know what Webbo's saying.
He's saying basically, I cannot lose my right as a citizen in St. Kitts Nevis at all, doesn't matter how...
Because you earned it, right?
Yeah.
Right. I had to go to Canada and live there
Yes, so the
to
people
become
who
a
were,
citizen of Canada.
so
right.
the people who were citizenship.
Right. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying if you are a citizen by investment, the people who live in St. Kitts and Nevis need to understand what that entails so that they too can understand. Thus, you become a citizen by investment and you have now full rights as everybody else who were born here and entitled to the same thing as they do.
But you seem to be explaining what it is, Mr. Hall, meaning that you become a citizen,
yes,
and you're a citizen, and thus you get the rights and the privileges that are available. Afforded,
yes.
right. So, what the title is, it just tells you by which route. If I'm going to Butlers, for instance,
yes,
I get to Butlers, they're having a concert, and I have my ticket.
yes,
And they said, well, those who came via
bus,
Newcastle,
yes,
via Newcastle,
yeah,
you can come to this door on the south.
yes,
Those who came via Gingerland can come in on the north,
Yes.
but we get in the same hall.
agreed.
So the only distinction is, how did we get there?
And it would be problematic, Webbo, if they said those who come via Castle sit in the front.
Right, right. So everybody, once you have your ticket, you get in and your ticket afford you. So your citizenship by investment,
yes,
or your citizenship by your parents,
yes,
being from St. Kitts and Nevis.
yes.
But once you are a citizen, then you get the rights and privileges. That's not what it is?
No, I am not having a problem with that. I am saying that the people who live here and the people who are born here, they need to know what entails by that.
Okay, so
most people here have no idea.
Okay, but
They
you
have no
think
idea.
you think most people have an idea though, or do know that the citizenship by investment gives us a lot of money.
Oh yes.
Oh, we know that part. Let me take this.
Yes,
Let me take
yes,
this.
yes,
Good
okay.
evening. Thank you for holding. Good evening. You're on the air.
Good night, good night.
Good night.
Good night to your panelists.
Good night.
Good night.
Now, the law that allows people to become a citizenship by investment does not, it states clearly they cannot vote. So even if what they buy or apply, they know that they cannot vote in our election. So they don't really have the same rights. We're saying it. Until the law change, they cannot vote. All right then.
Right. So, caller, may I ask you a question? Okay, I was about to ask the caller if you're still listening.
Maybe she can call back.
But, right. So, whether or not we are suggesting that, as Mr. Hall is saying, maybe we ought to put other exemptions.
Yes.
And the question is, if you begin to pile on the various exemptions, what quality will you have in terms of your program? Because remember that you're competing with Antigua, the other islands, and so on and so forth. And so when you begin to pile on exemptions, then people begin to say, well, this is not the number one anymore. We don't have, so many rights and privileges, so let's move on.
Agreed, Webbo. All I'm saying is that we as citizens who were born and raised here, and remember, I have been to over 350 cities or more around the world in 35 countries. A lot of our citizens haven't left St. Kitts and Nevis. Some of us go to America and come back, Canada and come back, Virgin Islands and come back. All I'm saying, these are the people that you need, that needs to know what you actually get when you become a citizen by investment, because this lady just says something that I didn't know, because she's saying that no, when you become a citizen by investment, you cannot vote.
So Mr. Hall,
that's something that's new to us. But again, Webbo, so that's two things that's new. One, because in 2021 I didn't know that again their children can have the same rights as our children, and in some case replace our children. These are two things now that has just come about that is knowledge for us. And I agree with you, Webbo, when we start doing exemption and exemption, yes, it lessens the not the value, but the perhaps the
attractiveness.
Thank you, Webbo. The attractiveness of the item, right? And that's I understand that. All I'm saying is that the information should be forthcoming so all the citizens knows what to expect.
So in essence, you're making the point that just as almost everybody knows because it's well advertised and pointed out that we make this amount of money from the CBI program, and it enables us to get dividends and build hotels, etc., etc. You are making the point, and the flip side of that, then you must also tell us all of the other factors that are involved, including, as the caller says, those persons don't normally live here, etc. That's what you're saying.
That's what we're saying.
Okay, so Naya, what else you got? Maybe we can get a break if anyone would like to weigh in on that. Else we got some other stuff we want to get into. This is Thought That Get Results with Elton Marcus Hall, Conrad Nye Liebert. Your phone calls on 1-869-469-1616 or 1700. I'll be back after these.
Builders Paradise is offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. Builders Paradise has over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builders Paradise has what you need. Wow! Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. This is something that you can't refuse. Visit Builders Paradise today at the C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Site in St. Kitts, or call them at 466-4938.
With all the power from the tower, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio, from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Back on this episode of Thought That Get Results with Elton Marcus Hall, Conrad Nye Liebert. Your phone calls on 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. What else we got? What else we got?
Well, I'm happy to hear what you have, Webbo, because
okay, I'm thinking and watching a lot of the situations that are happening globally, and seeing how our people, whether we should be connected to these things that's happening in terms of the way they may affect us. The war in Israel, for instance, it's probably far away. We've had the artificial intelligence that is, something else as well. And the artificial intelligence, I define it as locally. This part of it, I tie in also to it in terms of issues and effect on us going forward, is the way people now have their own facts in situations and really causing a lot of issues and problems. People seemingly now are not afraid to just make up things and sell it as if it were the truth, and people are latching on to it, and it is causing problems.
It's causing wars more than problems. It's causing division. It's causing mayhem in every respect. The ability to basically formulate something on your phone or whatever and send it out as factual, and people jump onto that, is a major concern. It's a major problem, and I see it's going to play a major role in our lives here in the Caribbean, especially probably in the area of politics, because that's the area we always tug a war about anyway. But on an international level, I must say I'm so moved about what is taking place out there, and I believe from COVID we should realize that we got to be a lot more self-sufficient. We got to be a lot more independent of importation, and also be careful of information that reaches our shores, that reaches our minds. The war in Israel is quite a bitter experience for me. It's the first time I don't want to watch the news. I'm like a news junkie, and I just find myself having to turn the television off recently. Not to really jump on a particular side of the conflict, but humanity is really something that, to me, it's been downgraded globally. And as I said to a lot of my friends, I'm so happy that I'm alive to see and to experience these things in its fullness, really, and realize the way the global issue is being play out, and how less it seems to me like humanity is a consideration in all this. Again, we are at the end of almost like a food train, because we find ourselves there. We can change that situation. I believe governments are responsible for, and I suppose that is their absolute task, to really maintain a level of existence down here, and therefore making policies and taking steps to ensure that, because we don't know where these conflicts, how long or how, and the impact on these little societies. I mean, we depend on trade too, and even little industries that I see coming in the Caribbean and so forth, and they're going to be seriously affected, because global trade, seems to be in a dire strait. The waterways of the world is being controlled by countries, which again doesn't seem to have that in-depth feeling about human needs and humanity. And so what we see as a consequence of the war, for instance, the continent of Africa is being fed some grain, and so Putin is God now, because he first starved them, and then later on he decided to, make friends, and of course it's an advancement of people's political ideology, and that tug of war to really get that present in the minds of the people. And as a result, the consequence is, the human being is basically a rope in the tug of war, and the consequences are devastating. I mean, what is going on in Gaza? We see in 1 month over 10,000 people has been killed. And we see now the hypocrisy that basically seems to run the world, that want to take root in this world. I see a time of great conflict, Webbo, and we who find ourselves down here, we got to be very mindful. One, that bring us back to the passport, sales of passport. Two, very mindful as to our existence in terms of food to eat, in terms of inflation, in terms of even who we look at as our allies. I think we in the Caribbean really find ourselves in a position where we have to be very mindful.
Let me just take this now. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Oh, it's me again. Good night.
Yes.
Good night.
Hello?
Yes, you're on the air.
Now, this Israel Hamas war, I don't think we should take any side, you know. If both sides are determined to liberate each other, wipe them out, then there is no reasoning. And I asked myself the question: what response did Hamas expect when they did the first move? Because I am sure that they did not expect Israel to just sit back and take it slow. So maybe they were expecting, well, time of the war start, Israel have its backers, and we also have ours. You know, these are people who don't think about anybody, you know. I mean, when Israel said they're going to wipe them from the map, I said, Lord, here we go again. Hamas want to wipe them off the map. And they want to wipe them off the map. Well, who will leave? And the sad thing is that the countries that are supporting the sides are trying to corral our islands. Well, we're on that side, so you have to support it, us. They don't say it directly, it is said indirectly. And our leaders, sometimes they are too timid, afraid, or weak to take a non-aligned stand. You don't think so?
You know, Carla, I think what I'm intrigued about, the point that you make, is the reasoning aspect of it.
I can't hear you so clear though.
I was saying that the reasoning aspect of it that you mentioned is what intrigues me, because that is why we end up having wars, because we are not able to reason with each other, don't you think?
And the stakes are very high for us. If you don't say yes or no, well, they touch the CBI, they touch the visas. You know, only God could help us, you know. And as Mr. Liebert said, we got to start to prepare ourselves for what is happening and what is to come.
But how are we preparing ourselves? Because
I don't think we understand.
Well, on the local level, we curse and quarrel with one another every day. That's seemingly our way of life, correct?
I keep saying, you know, you see all of this money they're throwing around? You need to begin, it is called the Sovereign Growth Fund. You need, rather than that dishing it out, begin, well, not today, but you should have begun before, when the money running like water. Build up a supply that you will be able, because these things have everything going up more. Therefore, build up so that you can afford to subsidize the import of foodstuff. Because this thing about 25 by 25, that's not going to happen. We just had all that rain wash out the farmers' crops. Are you aware of that?
Correct.
The farmers lost, but as one of them said, if you start a plant in December, you won't be able to reap in January, because the storm's coming later. You know, so may God help us and give us ideas, and people who have ideas, feed it, whether they want to hear you or they don't want to hear you. Make a suggestion. Sometimes they're forced to listen when they would have tried all that they knew and it don't work. But I would suggest that we keep out of the fight, because that to me is a fight without an end. Tomorrow they stop bombing and whatever, And why hasn't Hamas given up the people they kidnap if they're really serious? Nobody mentioning that. So all I said, look, there is brother, keep with the family fight. Keep with the family fight. And all the powers lining up. America and Europe over here, the Arabs over there, and nobody thinking about the suffering they cause in the world, you know. All right then.
Okay, all right, thank you. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Hello. Yeah.
Naya.
Yes, Webbo, the caller just said to keep out of the fight, but even if you take a neutral stand, that in itself is an involvement in the fight, you know.
Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good evening. I can relate to Niall's position, right? I mean, I too are a news junkie, and I find watching the news now really difficult. And it's not about, I think, watching two people fight. It's almost like the world has become less civilized. How could whole nations, leaders of nations, just watch this slaughter and essentially do nothing? Even Britain, I saw a poll that 76% of the British population wanted a ceasefire. And the government just ignores that. Right? Everybody lines up, well, the West at least lines up behind Israel and almost give them carte blanche to do what they wish with the Palestinians, like the Palestinians don't exist or shouldn't exist. And that is what I find difficult to accept. Israel itself was born out of terrorism. Remember when the British administered Palestine, the Israelis, the then Israelis, essentially fought against the British. I remember them bombing the barracks. I think it was a hotel. The barracks of the British lost a lot of lives. And now the tables are turned. You know, you get this kind of reaction, right? What I found instructive was our approach to this, because in the Prime Minister's press conference today, a journalist asked him essentially the government's position on the conflict, this conflict as well as the Venezuela-Guyana conflict. And essentially the answer was, we are on the side of peace. Well, I mean, that's good, yes, but it's almost like you know, those shows, those queen shows, beauty shows, pageants, where, you know, the contestants are all expected to say they're for world peace, right? I think we could have gone a little further and said that we are against the butchery that is happening now, okay? Both what happened on October 7th, also what was happening to the Palestinians before that, and what is happening to the Palestinians now. To me, there was no harm in, nobody could have faulted us for adopting that approach. I mean, to me it's humanitarian, right? Saying that you want to see an end, you want to see a ceasefire, you want an end to the carnage that is taking place there, right? Similarly, in the Guyana, Venezuela situation, you know, you try to walk a tightrope because you're friends with both of them, but certainly you can come down and suggest something tangible that can be done, whether in terms of negotiations or, you know, some kind of roadmap towards in the end they're sharing the land or something. But when you have these hard and fast positions adopted by nations, this is what you get. All right? And so the United Nations, the powerless, right? I don't know how Israel could claim to be democratic and they have these kinds of policies. I don't know how the United States, the West, can consider themselves democratic and civilized and watch these things happening. You know, it don't make any sense, you know, but it's happening, right? And we wonder just how many more lives are going to be lost before Israel feels that it has exacted its pound of flesh.
What, if any, idea you have or suggestion that certain things can be done so that we are not in the place that we are in reference to the war?
Well, first of all, remember that there were unanimous United Nations resolution after the 1967 war. It's just that Israel refused to accept it. They consider we won the war, and therefore the spoils are ours. But since it was unanimous, why could not that be enforced instead of having these perpetual wars? At some point, whatever solution comes forward, it's going to involve sharing the land in some way, because neither Israel is not going to disappear, neither are the Palestinians. The United States, I think, is in the unique position to broker an agreement between them.
But you would agree they have been trying to do that?
No, I don't think they have been trying to do that.
So
they have the fact that Israel has so much influence. I mean, one person referred to it as the tail wagging the dog. So much influence on U.S. policy is mind-boggling, right? The U.S. can force an agreement there, but it doesn't want to because of the impact it may have on the political landscape in the U.S. But that is what has to happen because no other country has enough influence to broker some kind of peace agreement. Right? I mean, there are protests in the U.S. about this too, eh?
So
not enough
your view for the solution to that problem is that the United States should solve it.
Yes, I think the nations should put more pressure on the United States to solve the problem.
Oh.
They can't. Nobody can put any pressure on Israel except the United States, right? So it's useless trying to talk sense into Netanyahu's head. Okay, only the United States can do that.
So the only person or country that can talk sense into Netanyahu's head is the United States. That's what you said.
It wouldn't even be talking sense. It would be beating him with it.
Okay.
If they stop supplying arms, if they stop supporting Israel would stop. It would stop.
But you are aware that the United States is suggesting to them to have a ceasefire at the moment, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so
there's no stick behind that. You see, they're still supplying them with arms. They're still going to block whatever resolutions the other nations put in the UN. Okay, so if there's no stick behind it, why should Israel move? They're going to pursue their revenge policy because that's what it is, you know. And it's war. It's engaging in war crimes. I mean, it's against international law to have collective punishment. And the mere fact that so many children have died does indicate that is collective punishment. You know, and you know, the thing is, you know, more people have died there now than in the Ukraine war. And they're prepared to go all kinds of lengths to condemn Russia and sanction Russia, etc. But here in the Middle East, it's like the can continue. doesn't make sense. You know, I don't know. I suspect that most nations don't like what's going on, but they're afraid, of course, to offend the United States. You know, I suspect, and in our case as well, we don't want to come out with a definitive statement, not of support for the Palestinians' way of doing things, the terrorism. Even though, as Reagan said, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter, right? But they know the power that the United States wield, and they, as far as we're concerned, well, we can't do anything anyway, and therefore just keep out of it, as our caller initially said. Just keep out of it, you know, stay neutral, or, you know, just shut up, okay? In the meantime, the slaughter continues. I mean, it's just disgraceful. I mean, we've gone back in civilization with this war, you know? And there's no end in sight. Like I said, we don't know how much longer. This has gone on for months. How much longer is going to be? Is it that they're going to say, well, when 1,400 Israelis were killed, when we have 10, 20, 100 times that much, then we stop? It makes no sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Naya.
You know, Webbo, the caller before asked a very important question. What was Hamas thinking in the context when they decided to do what they did, knowing the policies of Israel, where, you know, you come in and kill one of us and we are going to kill 20 or 30 of yours. I mean, that's been a policy for a very long time. So at the end of the day is, what were they thinking would happen when, you know, they started this thing? I mean, I think people most people don't understand war. I have been studying war for a very long time. War, there's only one thing that happened in war, Webbo. It's called carnage.
And nobody wins a war. Right?
Nobody wins.
Okay, let me just take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening. The point of the matter is, who are the Israelis?
Could you speak much louder?
I said the point of the matter is, who are the Israelis? They are nomads. I remember in the late 70s, 80s, where the Israelis went into Palestine and mowed down all the ancient homes to put their houses. When I saw that happening, tears came down my cheeks, because the British and the Americans support the Israel and what they're doing. They are nomads. And it's about time they stop, America and Britain stop representing Israel on what they're doing to Palestinians. Good night.
No.
Okay.
You know, Webbo,
Yes.
I think people need to take a step back when they come on the radio and talk about certain things. If I remember correctly, there's been 3 wars fight over this same thing with Israelis and the Arabs. And I think after the second one, Amos Sadat says, you know, we're not here to keep fighting, and made peace with Israel. And shortly after that, Jordan did the same thing. But there's been several other wars against that. The bottom line is, I think that everybody can exist in the Middle East, and they could do it peacefully. But at the end of the day, if one person says, well, our mission in this life is to destroy you, then the other one is going to go on the defense, right? And so then their mission becomes the same thing too. So that's a big problem. I can't tell you I have the solution, Webbo. I don't. I'm just saying that as a human being and as a person, we, and as Naya said, our humanity is, we look at it from a distance, and it doesn't have the same effect on us unless it's right next to us. You know, and we get numb by watching the news or watching this and watching that. You know, you look at every month there's almost a mass shooting in America, and so we're so used to that now that it's like, wow, it's crazy stuff. You know what I'm saying to you? And so it's like, as long as it's not next to us, we really don't feel it, right? One of the things that really bothers me here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and I already touched on it, we can't feed ourselves. And we have to be able to feed ourselves. Another thing that's going to happen to us here, like in a short period of time, is we're going to run out of water because we got no water storage. And we need to store every drop of rain that comes down from the heaven in St. Kitts and Nevis and be able to use it. And so now people are thinking, well, we need a desalination plant. I mean, yeah, that's not the answer to the whole thing. It's part of it, but we need water storage. But I'm saying to you, we really need to look inside as to what we need to do in order to feed ourselves, number one. Number two, there's so many things that are going on in the world that it's out of our control. You know, it is absolutely out of our control. But I think we need to understand the history of this, especially like the Middle East and what's going on. I was just in a country that I think was affected by the war in Ukraine because they can hardly get flour. You know what I'm saying to you? And these are things that we have to look at. But like I said, that the caller before who said, what was Hamas thinking? A lot of us are just going on pure emotion, and that's it. But it doesn't solve the problem. And you know, the hostages that was taken, do you give them back and says, okay, we want peace, or you're gonna have to fight to get them back? I mean, it's not so simple, right?
Yes, but when I look at these international happenings, I always try to see how I can fit it into our own local situation, because these things that have exploded into what they are now didn't start at that level.
No.
And when I listen to our own rhetoric around here, we're getting some stuff that also is frightening. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good evening, Webbo. This thing between Hamas and Israel is far more complex than many of us would understand. The fact that the United States is a democratic country, and the only democratic country in the Middle East, I believe, is Israel. At the same time, it has been helped always by the United States of America. You ever heard of the term the wandering Jew? God may have given that piece of land to the wandering Jew, or even before Judea. And there's another name that I'm trying to remember. However, let's fast forward to the current situation. The reason why Hamas is where it is today, Hezbollah, in terms of their firepower, is because of Iran's backing the Houthi rebels in Yemen. At the same time, we must understand that the United States and Iran have been at each other's throat for quite some time. Netanyahu, the current Prime Minister of Israel, actually attempted to overthrow the democratic system in Israel, and as they were putting a lot of emphasis and focus on that, Iran and Hamas figured out that this is time to strike. As a result, they struck. Now, based on what the current situation is, again, we must look at the humanitarian side of it, and also, on the other hand, look at the political side of it. Again, based on the makeup of ideologies, dictators are all around Israel. They don't have to ask the country, their country, respective countries, for permission to do what they want to do. And consequently, Hamas, in its charter, has decided Israel can no longer exist because the wandering Jews came back, and for whatever reason, they were able to fight in 1967 or maybe back in 1948, and they got independence from the United Nations. So it is far more complex than many of your callers before regarding this matter. Hamas has a responsibility to those hostages. Give them up. Israel doesn't want to bomb and kill its own citizens. So as a result, they are giving the Palestinians enough time to move from the north to the south, simply because Israel is selfish, Hamas is selfish. And based on that, those two dividing lines, those two entities, each of the on the other side of the dividing line, they will not let up. The former ruler of Iran, Ahmadinejad, stated and categorized Israel as a dead piece of wood. So based on what's happening now, Israel is in a lot of trouble, and the only way for this thing to be solved is for Israel to determine, I have to share the spot with the Palestinians, Gaza and the West Bank people. At the same time, they have created complications in the West Bank. The government of Israel is approving home ownership in the West Bank. That's another big problem, simply because they've got the Boston state, the nuke. So, in my view, if survival is for both, Israel has to determine that the people of the West Bank, Gaza, as human beings, be given an opportunity to live in dignity and to have their own space. And Israel, on the other hand, they would be able to live in peace rather than in pieces. So it is far more complex regarding the difference in ideology. Now, Netanyahu went to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to foster a relationship between the entire Middle East. But Iran didn't want that. Iran saw an opportunity to scuttle the arrangement between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Israel. as a result, the Ayatollah in Iran decided to make sure that it covers that mission of Netanyahu. So it is far more complex. Israel is the only democratic nation in that rough neighborhood. Webbo.
Yes, Naya.
You know, yes, of course, there's a deep and prolonged history. But is it important at this point in time, when we're talking about humanity, when we're talking about the rules of engagement, when we're talking about war crimes and so forth? I mean, yes, there would be wars, but, you know, there are guidelines, internationally accepted, internationally laid down guidelines. So the UN doesn't mean nothing. The rules of engagement and doesn't mean anything. How can it mean something in Ukraine but not in the Gaza Strip?
Yes.
You know, I agree with you. America is the only one who Israel listened to, and I am not aware that America is asking for any ceasefire. They are putting it in all kind of contexts. Remember, Brazil was the first one who proposed that in the UN, and it was vetoed by America and some other countries. But the question, the truth is, America is the only one Israel listens to, you know.
Yeah.
And in the light of humanity, you know, and that is my concern, because if wars no longer have any rules, and you can simply go and throw a bomb in a hospital, stab the people, cut off water, electricity, food, everything, you know. And like one of the callers said, it seems like we have gone back with civilization somewhere.
We've gone backwards.
We have gone backwards.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Ukraine conflict was heartbreaking, you know.
Yeah.
But this one seems to highlight the hypocrisy that seems to run the world. It's, you got the gun, and you got the ammunition, and so you got the power and authority to do what you want, you know. And so Israel is widely supported. I mean, look at a place like France, you know. You cannot have, I mean, the High Court had to get involved here,
Yeah.
because they banned any protest that was pro the Palestinian. I mean, I'm not taking much of a side here.
Yes, agreed.
But what I'm saying is, like, the rules of engagement are firm and clear. And if it applies in East Europe, it should be applied in the West Bank and everywhere else. I mean, when our children are growing up today and realizing the reality of how the world runs, I mean, how can you really make them really good people, in a sense? And about the Caribbean and, say, the CARICOM leaders, even if they keep silent, you know, they're sending a message, you know, because the West want them to say that we are behind you guys, you know. So even if they keep quiet and non-align, that's a problem. That's a problem for us. That's a problem, and we can bear the consequence of that as well. You know, as one caller said, lack of passport and all kind of blacklisting start going on.
Exactly.
You know, and so to me, the history is there. The history is complicated, you know. The thing about the history, it looks like it's being tilted, you know, based on colonialism and all kind of different things, you know. But the reality is today, what we are seeing, you know, in Israel, what took place in October 7, you know, I mean, the massacre of 1,400 people and the kidnap of kids and old people and so forth, you know. And then we realize what's going on in the Gaza Strip today. It looks like we are dealing with, you know, murderers as leaders. You know, Hamas is an elected body in the Gaza Strip. Hamas and the leader of Turkey said Hamas ain't no terrorist organization. It's a resistant group. Remember, the ANC was listed as a terrorist organization once, because it's a political movement with an armed wing as well. Remember when the South Africa airport was bombed? Nelson Mandela was branded as a terrorist too. But it looks to me like humanity has the definition probably has taken on another twist, and it looks like the UN doesn't have any rank when it comes to what some leaders want to do, backed by force, you know. Like Russia is powerful, so Russia go into Ukraine and wipe out and do what it wants, and America can't do nothing much about that but sanction, and Israel is doing what it wants, you know. But I am not again taking any side here. All I am saying that we must have more sensitivity for human beings who are not soldiers, who are not engaged in the physical battle and the physical involvement of war, you know. And so what is going on in the West Bank and in Gaza Strip, to me, it's an insult, really, to humanity. And for those, America is not asking for a ceasefire. America is basically asking for a humanitarian pause. That's the term they've been advancing, you know. And yes, we need that, I suppose, and we need a lot more, really and truly. We need a ceasefire. We need to stop, because nothing is going to be done. Maybe even the terrorists, even the people that Hamas is holding, you know, I think they stand a better chance to be free if the killings stop.
Well, now one of the things that I really see now, it seems like there's no more rules.
Yeah.
You know, there's no more rules. At one point there was rules. There's no more rules right now.
And the hate.
I mean, honestly, it's like, I mean, maybe the humanitarian pause is not a bad idea, where at least everybody can sit back for a week and maybe think and say, okay, you know what? Free the hostages and let's see if we can sit down and talk. But it just seems so far away. It seems so far away just to sit down and talk and say, let's reason it out. But the bottom line is, like, it seems like anything goes. I mean, it was the same with the war in Ukraine too. It's like anything goes. There's no rules anymore. You know, there's no rules of war. It's just like anything goes. You know, you bomb me, and I'm gonna just send this thing there. No matter what happens. You know, there's don't seem to be any rules.
Well, I realize, like, the politician doesn't listen to the people much in these days either.
Exactly.
I mean, 80% of the people around the globe are protesting for, you know, for some kind of human, a good example, I suppose, you know.
Yes.
And it's not happening. It's not happening. It's almost same thing with the passport thing. Okay, you're selling passport. We have sold so many thousands. The money is good. We've been developing here, there, and there. But you never explain to the public. You never explain to the public the ins and outs, or if there's any exemptions, or what.
The details.
The details of it, you know.
Yes.
And so it's looked like the people becomes people who are led into darkness at times, into dealing with harsh consequences at times, you know. And the reality is, if people decide to take up that right, all these people who have bought passport decide to take up the rights, you know, maybe a lot of them are sports people and all kind of things, you know what I mean, and they know, say, well, think it's needed looking representation here and there.
It's an opportunity for me.
It's an opportunity for me.
Exactly.
And so we, though, if you want to call us the indigenous people,
yes,
in a sense, the indigenous holders of the passport, find ourselves
we're definitely going to be left behind.
Dealing with a bad situation.
Definitely going to be left behind, and that's one of the bottom line of the whole thing. The thing is with the thing in Israel with Hamas and all this stuff. Hamas has been elected, like you said, and for the last maybe 10 years, yeah, there's been a few flare-up, here and there. So what has changed so much that they had to have the event of
October the 7th?
Exactly. What has changed so much that required that event to happen? Yeah, there's been some flare-up here and there for the last 10 years or so on and so forth. But again, what happened that caused October 7th to be the way it is? I mean,
You ever heard who feels it knows it? Good evening, thank you for holding.
Yes. What has changed really is that nothing has changed. For all these years, over 70 years, right, they've been talking about trying to get a Palestinian state at least, right? And even the United States have sanctioned the two-state solution. They pushed it. And nothing has come, right? And so if they don't get up and do something, I agree that it was an atrocious act going after civilians like that. But to just stay there and be docile, it would be like, the Indians, what happened in when the Europeans went to the Americas, they found the Indians there. But they seized their land. And so the Indians fought, of course, the superior firepower and so on overwhelmed them. But if you don't get up and fight, and if you just roll over and die, that's what you're going to do, just die. What else could the Palestinians do but resist? There are resistance forces. Yes, they use terrorism as well, okay? But the fact is, they've been there for all these years, and nothing has changed for them, right? When you push, if you treat people like savages, don't you expect them to act like savages? And that is the situation we're in now, right? No forward movement on the peace process, okay? As long as the Palestinians, I think the word they use is contained, right? Hamas was contained. The Palestinians in the refugee camps and in Gaza and the West Bank, they're contained, okay? And so this status quo would remain like this for the next 100 years if they don't resist, right? It is just like how every country has a right to self-defense. Every people has a right to self-determination and to resist oppression as well, okay? And so to answer the question as to why now, Hamas would probably say, why not now? Okay? Because nothing was changing, right? At least right now, after this is over, whenever it's over, I'd be very surprised if the world goes back to sleep and the status quo remain the same.
Caller, you just made a statement. I just want to make sure that I got it correctly. Did you say that every people have a right to self-determination and to resist oppression?
Yes.
And every means every people, not necessarily in this conflict between Israel and Palestine?
No, every people, everywhere throughout the world.
Okay.
And history has shown that.
Okay.
Right? People always resist oppression. Of course, the oppressors always want to tell the oppressed how they should resist it. Okay, always non-violence, etc., etc. But the fact remains, there are very few conflicts that don't involve some kind of settlement, or a settlement isn't pushed because of the threat of violence. It's unfortunate, but that's been the case throughout history. You look at the human history, and you realize that is how conflicts are usually solved. unfortunately. But we thought that we had reached to a point where, as someone just said, there were even rules of war. I mean, that's an oxymoron, right? Because we all know about collateral damage and so on. But at least there was some kind of rule. But all of these seem thrown out of the door now. I mean, you know, we wonder how much more savage is this going to get, you know? And the people who can do something about it, who can enforce it, seem content to just sit by and watch the slaughter. That's really sad, you know?
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
You know what have changed? You did ask what have changed.
Yes.
Well, Israel have adopted one of the most far-right government in its history.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So things would have been getting worse down in the Palestinian, you know, in the occupied territories. You know, and since that government came into power, they have armed their settlers down there. And they've been creating havoc for the Palestinian people. The Palestinian people trying to pick their fruits and grapes. They've been beating them, and look, they treat those people bad. In their funerals, you know, if you got up a Palestinian flag, they beat hell out of you. You know, you remember with the killing of the journalist. What was her name there last year?
Yes.
You know, when they were burying her, look how they deal with the people, you know, carrying her caskets and so forth. You know, so what have happened is an increased violence, you know, in the occupied territories, coming from some hardline. The occupiers, you know, I mean, it can be said they are operating in self-defense, or they are armed because they, you know, the people, the Palestinian people, are always throwing stone at them and so forth. But the violence have multiplied since that far-right government has been seated in Israel, and not to forget, you know, that Netanyahu, he himself might have ended up in prison. I think what is happening to him, he has now managed to unite the whole of Israel. You know, people was politically, you know, away with him. You know, everybody have come together. So you have seen success in that respect, bringing Israel together because of this huge conflict. But I think it wasn't going to improve, you know, for the people of Palestine. It was going to get worse because, you know, we realized that Israel can breach international laws, you know, without impunity, or with impunity, put it that way, with impunity, and therefore it simply was getting really worse. You know, the settlements was expanding, and as a result of that, the settlers now being armed. I think they have passed a law that the settlers now can be armed, and they've been really acting up against the Palestinians in a very severe way, you know, and that's why I'm talking about humanity, man. It's like, what's going on, you know? I mean, are we going forward or backward here, you know? I mean, if you can simply breach international law with impunity, you know, I mean, you are like a very dangerous people, you know. Again, it's about power, it's about might, it's about weapon, and America basically controls that aspect of it all, and therefore they're being permanent ally of Israel. Israel can never do anything wrong. That is the recipe for war and destruction.
You know, Naya, it just seems like there should have been another way to protest this, but at the end of the day, it seems like the non-violent that Gandhi preached or Martin Luther employed, that is so far away from humanity these days that it's not even considered. You know, but I'm saying there might have been a different way to approach this rather than the 7th of October, you know, and what happened and how it happened, you know. Like the non-violent might have worked too, or bring as much attention to this than you remember they say violence begets violence. I mean it's what happened on the 7th of October was like, it was insane, you know, and so, but I'm saying they might have reconsidered, but you know, like as a caller said before, what were they thinking, that nothing would happen? You know, I'm saying, yes, nothing is perfect, but at the end of the day, Gandhi achieved what they achieved through nonviolence. Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement achieved what they achieved through nonviolence. It might have been possible, but I'm saying it just seems like nonviolence protests these days is so far away. But remember, Naya, when you're talking about nonviolence that Martin Luther King employed, a lot of violence came to those people and they held their ground. I mean, dogs were set on the blacks in America for protesting, and still they held their ground with nonviolence and was able to achieve a tremendous amount for black people in America, in the Caribbean, and around the world. You know, so there might have been some other consideration that could have been employed rather than what actually happened on October 7th. You know what I'm saying? But
Yes.
it seems like we're like I said, it seems like the rules of war is gone. Now the nonviolence is non-existence. There's nobody's. What happened to peace? You know what I'm saying to you? What happened to consideration? You know what I'm saying? It's like, look, anytime there is a mass shooting in America, it's done by a white guy personally, and they always need help. It's always a mental thing. But anytime there is something where a black person shoot another black person, and not just one black person shoot one black person, it's always, that's a violent thing. But when the white man commits this thing with the mass shooting, oh, he's mentally disturbed. So black people are not mentally disturbed. You know what I'm saying to you? And so it's a standard that anytime a black person commit a crime, especially in America, he's a violent, and the whole race, all of us get blamed for it. But a white person go and kills 22 people in a mass shooting, and all of a sudden we should sympathize with him because he's mentally disturbed. So black people doesn't get mentally disturbed. With all black people went through, that's gone through in the last 300, 400 years, slavery, all the prejudice, everything, we don't get mentally disturbed. Only the white people get so mentally disturbed they have to pick up a gun and kill 22 people, and they now need a psychiatrist and all that stuff. But black people don't need psychiatrists.
That's the last word. Elton Marcasol, Conrad Nye Liebert, thank you all for joining us. This program repeats tomorrow at 10 o'clock following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On The Mark. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community. Thought that get results. You all have a wonderful evening.
Views and opinions expressed on the preceding program is solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the News Bureau.